One of the questions that has absorbed me for quite a while now is, has there ever been a need for more advanced meaning making in our commercial world as well as our society? And I think the answer to that is yes. There's absolutely never been a time when it's needed more. And one of the reasons why I'm so delighted to be able to work in the corporate world is I feel, as many people do, that the impact of our organisations on the way society is evolving is massive, and I'm seeing a real shift in the organisations that I'm working with to starting to take a holistic responsibility for their part in the entire ecosystem rather than in a small fraction of it. And if you contrast that to where we're moving kind of politically in many parts of the world, perhaps the corporate world is the world that will help move us in a more positive direction. So what does this mean for leaders? Well, one of the things that we've learned, I think, really helpfully in Harthill over the last decade or so is that whilst one would passionately wish to see more strategists develop in organisational leadership positions, it takes quite a long time for this movement in action logic to occur, and the activity of trying to support the development of achievers into strategists as a goal in itself probably isn't the way to go. That's a background context, I would say. What's more important is to ask this question: what is it that strategist leaders do? What capabilities do they exercise which may be useful to leaders at the action logics that precede strategist? What can we borrow? What can we co-opt? And that's led us to talk about 6 late-stage capabilities. And for about the last decade, these have been core to the work that we've been doing to support the development of leaders. And they are these. First of all, and fundamental, is the notion of inquiry-based experimentation. If I always do what I always did, how do I look at things with fresh eyes? So first of all, the encouragement to inquire, to really think deeply about who you are, about what's going on socially, what the relationships are, what's going on in the system, and then to experiment in both very large and very small ways with that. So this is both an idea, but it's a way of breathing. It's a way of being as a leader, is to be very inquiring, curious, and then willing to experiment. Everything, the other 5 that I'm going to talk about are all best explored through the idea of inquiry-based experimentation. So it's a real foundation for how we might lead. And actually, I think we could start to shift how leaders work by simply educating, supporting them to be more skillful in their inquiry and their experimentation. That alone, I think, would start to move leadership in the right direction. However, also useful is the notion of the courageous use of power. So the conscious use of power, I think, is vital. We need to ask leaders to think about their power and how they use it. We need then to say, if you're seeing this, then some requisite courage is a significant part of how you operate. And to link the two, to talk about power to innovate, power to resist, power to collaborate, power to co-opt, is a really significant part of a late-stage capability, bringing that to consciousness. Language, tremendously important, both in its intent and in its structure. The reason the word positive is put in here is that one of the things we notice with the later stage leaders that we've worked with is this positivity, a not unrealistic sense of woo-woo-woo, everything's wonderful, but a real orientation towards a better future, an achievable better future. So that underpins the language. With that comes appreciation, generosity, but also with it comes a very, very skillful, conscious use of speech and how they engage with others. And then one which attracts a significant amount of attention, and I think it's because it talks very strongly about how it is to be a strong achiever in an achiever world, which is the need for passionate detachment. And I love the paradox of this, that to be more effective, our passion needs to be stepped back from. The things that we really care, we need to be able to hold, but hold here, not quite so tight. And therefore to be able to be more to have more perspectives on it, to be more distanced from it, and yet to be not disinterested, to be engaged in passion. And I think, in talk about inquiry and experimentation, I think there's a lifetime's work for all of us to inquire into that balance between our passion and our commitment and our overzealous engagement. Enables diversity, which is part of the D&I agenda, but it's also what we notice late stage leaders doing, is being able to pull in, to engage, to enlist a whole range of different ways of working, and therefore different people. So that might be represented by ethnicity or gender or sexual orientation, but it also might be represented simply by how people think. And a really good check for most leaders is have a quick look around your team and see how many people there make you feel a bit uncomfortable in the way that they think. If there's nobody who feels uncomfortable, then it's not useful. And then finally, exercises systems leadership. So always the consciousness is what's going on in the system. And that's really, really important, because in complex situations, there's always lots of appealing, simple solutions that don't work. So being able to take a systems perspective and step back and go, that looks like we could do that. However, what are the dynamics is really significant. And this is a kind of breathing, everyday kind of quality which people bring. So these should be informing the way that an organisation thinks about the development of its leaders, and should be playing a part, in the development of leaders.